any road will take you there. Right. So we must have a destination. That's the biggest thing. The biggest challenge that I see in almost any business is they have no idea where they're going because they haven't sat down to think, well, where do I want to go? What do I want? And if we can't answer that question, don't start.
Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman, and I want to thank you for coming to another great episode. Listen, if you're enjoying the show, if you're checking us out for the first time, or somebody shared this episode with you, I need you to do me a little favor and leave us a rating and review. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We've got a great show today. We're going to be talking to Josh Thomas. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button today. Josh Thomas is a self-proclaimed fancy pants business consultant who has worked directly with more than 5,000 entrepreneurs over a 15-year career. Now, Josh has developed and honed a particular set of skills that have helped many of his clients 2x their business growth in just 90 days or less. Now, he's the founder of Factor One, a unique business advisory for service-based entrepreneurs, and he's the host of the Do Zone podcast. Let's welcome to the show, Josh Thomas.
John, good to be here. And you know, the most ironic part about that introduction is I actually do not own a single pair of fancy pants.
Well, listen,
I should just embrace my brand and just be like, yeah, you know what? I'm a fancy pants consultant. Here's my fancy pants, but
you got to get some bright pink and yellow tights, looking like the Macho Man or something like that. There you go.
Yeah. Rainbows. Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, listen, I went over your body at a high level. Why don't you take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps?
So specifically with multifamily insights, I worked with Michael Blanc for about 5 years. Great guy, one of the leaders in the industry. And being on the inside of what's happening with somebody that's moving thousands of units and surrounding with other people that are moving thousands of units, you start to kind of narrow in on a lot of the stuff that really matters. And so I know you asked me to talk about me, but what I can say from my experience is seeing something so complex as closing a multifamily deal, whether it's a syndication or a JV or something, and talking to the people that are doing this all the time and working with them. One thing that I started to notice was trends. I'm always looking for trends. Like, that's just how my brain works. And I'm looking for the path of least resistance. I'm looking for checklists. I'm looking for ways to kind of processify, if you will, every single thing that you can do so that I can pass that on to somebody else and I can focus on some higher level thing. And that's the thing that I noticed, especially in multifamily, is it's a lot less complicated than most of us are making it, as long as we know what outcome we want and the steps that we need to take to get that outcome. And so that really, I think, does define me, because I've been spending the last 15 years trying to deconstruct really complicated things and break them down into their simplest elements so that anybody could just follow the steps and achieve the outcome that they want to achieve.
No, hey, I appreciate you sharing that, right? Understanding your background and working with Michael Blanc and being able to watch and understand exactly how he was growing his business and working with other investors who had a ton of units and just really, breaking it down to what really matters and creating systems and processes and understanding delegation so that you can scale. I know you work with other entrepreneurs, right? And I kind of talked about in your bio how you're helping them grow their business, double their business in around 90 days or so. Talk to us about some of the challenges entrepreneurs face, particularly the ones that you are talking to. Like, what are some of those common challenges that those entrepreneurs are facing when they reach out to you?
Here's the biggest problem. I want to ask you a question, or I want to present a scenario for you, John.
You know?
Let's say I came up to you and I said, hey, John, let's take a road trip, man. What's the next question that you're going to ask me?
Where are we going?
Where are we going? Nobody has ever gotten that question wrong. That is the right question. Every single person knows that's the question you ask. Hey, man, you want to take a road trip? Where are we going? That's logical. That's natural. Now, let's put this in a business situation. You have somebody who's running a business. Yeah, I'm running this business. I want to do this and doing this, doing this. Okay, cool. What's your goal? What do you want to get out of this? 9 times out of 10, John, the answer is, I didn't really have much of a goal in mind. I was just thinking, I just kind of want to point in that direction and see how far I can get. Now let's go back to the road trip example. If that was my answer, are you getting in the car with me?
Nah, man.
No, hard pass. Right. But it seems to be okay for us to run a business that way. And that doesn't make any sense. Like if your boy's not going to get in the car with you and take a road trip to wherever, then why would you run your business that way? And so the first thing that you have to do is you have to establish a destination. Where are we going? Where do we want to go? If I plan a trip to Disney World, I can go back and figure out how much gas I need, how long the trip's going to take. Do I need somebody else to drive? Do I need to stop over for a night or something like that? I can build a lot of plans and I can start executing on those plans. But if I just say, hey, wherever, who knows where I'm going to end up? Now, the good thing about it is if I plan a trip to Disney World and I work out the logistics and we start going to Disney World, that's east for me. Maybe it's south for north for some other people. And we start heading east. And then we say, you know what? I don't think I want to go to Disney World. I think I just want to hang out in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Then I can do that because I've already made my plans. I'm already executing, and I can always change directions as long as I'm going somewhere. But the last point I'll make, the little rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Right. So we must have a destination. That's the biggest thing. The biggest challenge that I see in almost any business is they have no idea where they're going because they haven't sat down to think, well, where do I want to go? What do I want? And if we can't answer that question, don't start. Don't get in the car.
I think that's such a powerful and kind of simple, but obvious thing, but it's a challenge for almost every entrepreneur. And I think too, especially for those people who come from, say, the W-2 world, right? Where you have a job and the only goal is really to get promoted. So you do that job, you try to do a good job so you can get promoted, but you're just handling whatever tasks pop up each day, right? And when you flip over to being an entrepreneur or to running your own business, why you started the business you wanted to start, and you kind of have that, maybe that initial goal, but once you kind of get on that hamster wheel, you may not have that clarity as far as where is this business going. Like, do you have staff? Do you have people on your team? What goals do they have? Do they have a clear roadmap or a vision of what success looks like for not just them, but the organization? So, and a lot of people do struggle with that. How do you help people step back and get that? Because I think some people are busy working in their business that it's really difficult for them to take a step back and actually put together that goal and that vision for where the company is headed.
It's iterated in a lot of different ways. So a lot of people say, man, I'd love to grow my business. I'd love to put all these systems in place, but I'm just too busy putting out fires all the time. Man, I'd love to do this. I want to level up, but every time I do it, I just keep hitting this wall. And the biggest problem, I'll go right back to the same thing I just said. You got to know where you're going, because if you know where you're going, then we can build a plan. Now, if that plan's not working, we got to pivot. And so a lot of times what we end up doing as entrepreneurs is we're holding up a wall. The wall is our business. We're holding it up and we can't see over it or around it or anything like that because we're too busy holding it up. And if we walk away for a second to get a look, it's crashing. And so what do? We really need a new perspective. And that new perspective, with your nose up against the wall, it's really hard for you to even see what color the dang thing is. And so a lot of times we got to get that new perspective from someone else that's not us and say, hey, will you take a look at this? Because I'm just like, I'm too close to this. I can't really think objectively here. And you got to get that from somebody you trust. It doesn't have to be a business expert. It doesn't have to be a fancy pants consultant or anything like that, but it has to be somebody that you trust that is going to give you honest feedback about the situation. And that's one of the most important things that you should seek out first and foremost is you need counsel. Now, if that counsel comes from somebody who knows business, great. If it comes from somebody who knows you personally, great. If it comes from somebody that you just admire and trust, that's also okay. There's no real wrong answer for that. Even if it's your Uncle Bob, unless your Uncle Bob is like a wacko, that's also okay. But getting that perspective and having somebody else step back for you and saying, oh, well, you know what? You're only like 2 feet away from the end of the wall. You can just scoot over and you'll be fine. That little thing, you wouldn't have been able to see that by yourself. You needed that new perspective. And so that's one of the first things. First of all, you got to have a clear destination. Second of all, you really need help. It's hard to do this on your own. Like, I would not try to scale a wall if I've never done it before. I would talk to somebody else who's scaled a wall before, or at least somebody who can see over it and say, well, here's what's on the other side.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. Josh, you've been a consultant for a while now and helped a lot of different entrepreneurs. I believe over 5,000 entrepreneurs you've worked with. What got you into this space?
Money.
Well, there's lots of ways to make money, right? You clearly picked business consultant for a reason. So why that versus, say, for instance, sticking in real estate?
Yeah, good question. So I actually used to be a music teacher, and it was a long time ago. And I got out of that, and I got my real estate license, but it was 2008, and I didn't have crap for skills, and nobody could get a loan anyway, and so I failed at that real fast. And then so I was just broke and desperate, and I went on the computer and typed in something stupid like how to make money online. Spoiler alert, I did not get the answer. But what I did find was I found mentors. I found guidance. I found education and perspective that I had never seen before. And so I started following these guys and paying attention to what they did, and said, I went and got a job at a call center, and somebody taught me how to sell. I leveraged that skill into a consulting firm. And then I was basically able to learn on their dime for many years and serve a lot of their clients, helping them under their guidance. And then I was able to kind of leverage that into some independent consulting and kind of breaking it out from there. And so the path was just a series of slingshots, if you will, one after another. Like I go as far as I can, and I fail and I struggle. And then I realize, oh, I can slingshot myself over by doing this thing next. Oh, I can slingshot myself over by doing this thing next and this thing next. But it wasn't like roses and rainbows ever. And I want to clarify that point. Like, if you're an entrepreneur and you're listening to this right now, if you're a real estate investor and you're struggling, you're having a hard time, that's okay. You're not alone. You're not necessarily doing anything wrong. You might just be going through the suck. And the suck is going to suck no matter what. And you have to push through that suck. But the whole time that you're going through that suck, you need to be looking for those leverage points that are going to slingshot you over the wall you keep running into and get you to that next level. Always be looking for, what is the thing that's going to push me over? How do I create momentum to get me going in the right direction again, so that I can stop self-mutilating, in this entrepreneurial journey?
When someone's looking for that slingshot, what signs should they be looking out for?
So for me, I have always, in hindsight, but it's catching up to me finally. But for the most part, I always kind of knew when my momentum was stalling out. I always kind of knew when whatever I was doing was starting to create a diminishing return. I always kind of like it's like you're standing outside and a cold front comes in and you just, oh, it got chilly around here, man. What happened? You kind of see the winds change. And it's not like you did anything wrong. It's just sometimes people just sour. Sometimes situations that just go bad, relationships end. And it's not because anybody did anything wrong. It's just like, well, this doesn't serve me anymore. So the best question that you can ask if you're not sure is just be objective and just ask yourself, is this situation or whatever, is this serving me right now? Or is it just comfortable and familiar? Because if it's not serving you, it's time to look for a way out. If it's comfortable and familiar, that may be okay, but growth does not happen in the comfort zone. Growth happens outside of the cave where we're running through the field, trying not to get caught by the saber-toothed tiger. That's where growth happens. If we stay in our comfort zone, our resources are going to diminish, our opportunities are going to diminish, and we're going to just shrink and shrivel up into the corner and there won't be anything left. And so we have to push out there and we have to take calculated risks. But looking for the opportunity is just asking yourself that question, like, is what I'm doing right now, is it actually serving me, or is it just comfortable and familiar? And be really honest with yourself about that question. And if you're not sure if you can be honest with yourself, ask me and I'll tell you the truth. And I'll tell you most of the time you're being comfortable and familiar, and you won't like that, but I'll tell you anyway.
Well, I think the point you made with that is really strong. Is first of all, ask yourself, is this serving me? Or am I comfortable and familiar? And I think the question beyond that goes back to your initial point, which is, what's your goal? What's the destination? And if you're just doing stuff, well, how do you even know if it's serving you if you haven't clarified where you're going? And I think, you've got a couple books in your background, and I just finished reading the 10X is easier than 2X. And it makes me think of some of the things in that book where, you can be doing something because it's just how you've always done it. This is how we make money. We do this. But if your goal is to really grow and to do something, you kind of have to step back and actually understand what's the goal, and then look at kind of the strategy or the tactics that you're doing now and decide whether or not those things fit. You talked about, hey, you got to get perspective, right? If your nose is against the wall, you've got to step back. You can ask someone, get a consultant, get a friend, get a trusted advisor. I think one challenge people have is understanding who to take advice from. So I know you kind of mentioned, hey, get some advice and feedback from someone, but there are people who love you who give terrible advice, right? We see it all the time on social media. So I want you to clarify that. How do you screen, and who should you be listening to? What signs should you be looking out for, so you're not just randomly taking advice from people around you?
So there was a guy I met on social media, and his name is escaping me. It was Jordan something. I don't see it here. Okay, so some guy named Jordan. He had some ridiculous physical transformation in like 2 months. He put up this picture from May and a picture from July, and in May he was kind of doughy, and in July he was shredded. And I'm like, dang. And so I started following this guy because it was inspiring, and he starts putting out stuff. Jordan Schaefer, that's his name. And one of the things that he said, he ended it with, I keep getting a lot of people telling me, well, this diet method's not the best, or this exercise routine isn't the best, and all that stuff. Or you shouldn't work out so much. You shouldn't try so hard. You shouldn't be getting up at 4 a.m., blah, 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 blah. And he ended this with something I had to write down because it just popped me between the eyes. And he said very simply, I don't want your results, so I ain't taking your advice. I don't want your results, so I ain't taking your advice. And so if you're struggling to figure out who to listen to, Look at their results. Now, keep in mind, if your Uncle Bob weighs 400 pounds, but runs 15 eight-figure businesses, you could probably take Uncle Bob's business advice, whether or not he makes the best health decisions, right? So you got to put it through the right filter. So understand what is the core element of the advice you're seeking, and what are the results of this person on that core element. Is this person wise enough, experienced enough? Do they have enough battle scars for you to say, yeah, I bet what he just said comes from the heart, and he means every word of that, and it's probably the best thing for me. So consider the source and look at their results. And if you don't want their results, don't take their advice.
Josh, I love that quote, man. I'd write that down too, right? If you don't want their result, or said, I don't want your results, so I ain't taking your advice. So love that, man. We'll make sure we quote that to George Schaefer. But I think that's really key because, again, you can also always listen to people, and it's good to get perspective from other people. But when it's actual input on things to take action on, you really want to make sure you're trusting the source. We're big on mentorships and education, and obviously this podcast is meant to help people learn how to invest in real estate, how to invest in multifamily. And I do think it's really key to surround yourself with people who can help you grow and scale because they have that experience, because they have that knowledge. And for yourself, I think sometimes we almost get too granular in the multifamily world, and it's really important to understand that it's still a business. It's still, entrepreneurship. It's still going to face the same challenges of scaling, of systems and processes, hiring, firing. Like, there's still all these other components that are business issues and challenges. So then you got to step outside of even just that tight niche circle and say, okay, let me talk to someone who actually has sat down with different businesses, and maybe you can innovate by pulling something that you see that's working in a different asset class or a different industry altogether, particularly because real estate's really slow at adapting. So talk to me about that, because you have such a vast range of clients that you work with. Do you see ideas that work in maybe one sector or for one entrepreneur that you've been able to implement or share with other entrepreneurs that have helped them open up their business?
Yeah, and I think this is a good time for me to give a real estate specific example. Yeah. And this will tie in perfectly with what you're just saying. Like, is there something that transfers across industries, even in real estate, even in multifamily? And it's this. And I think everybody here will appreciate it. I'm sitting in a room full of half a dozen people. Each of them have 3,000 plus units, all multifamily, heavy hitters. And we're sitting around talking about what matters. We're sitting around talking about the fundamentals and what we really should be focusing on and what people normally focus on that they shouldn't be focusing on. And every entrepreneur runs into the same problem. I got to get my business plan together. I got to establish my LLC. I got to run some expense reports. I got to talk to my accountant and get a P&L. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. What matters is, do you have a product or a service that solves a specific pain point for a specific type of person? That's it. Do you have a product or service that solves a specific pain for a specific type of person? If you have that, you are 80 to 90% there. Now, the multifamily version, I'm in this room, half a dozen people, all heavy hitters in multifamily, big time syndicators. Conversation comes up about what really, what's the most important part of this? Is it the underwriting? Is it the capital raising? Is it, deal sourcing? Is it finding the right construction people and getting the right estimates and putting together the best business plans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And one was like, nah, man, that's all crap. None of it matters. The numbers don't matter. This was said in this room. The numbers don't matter. The spreadsheet and the underwriting doesn't matter. Forget it. Throw it out the window. I don't even care about it. You know what matters more than anything? The team that you put together to get this deal done. And do people have faith that this team can execute? Because if they have faith that this team can execute, they don't need to look at the spreadsheet. They don't need to vet you out. They don't need to go and think about it, because they're looking at you and they're saying, oh, this is so-and-so. They've done all of these other deals. They're out there. They've convinced me they know what they're doing. I trust them. Take my money. The numbers on the spreadsheet do not matter. And here's the thing. I've worked with a lot of multifamily investors. Most of them are buried in that spreadsheet, trying to make sure that we can tweak the cap rates so that we can squeeze out a little bit more NOI. And, like, doesn't matter. Convince somebody that you're the best operator for this job. That's what you got to do to the bank. The bank doesn't even care about the numbers to an extent. They care about you. Are you going to take care of this deal so that we can recuperate the money we're lending you? Are you going to do that? I don't care about your spreadsheet. I care about you. Are you a criminal or a fraudster, or are you competent and you know what you're doing? So to really answer your question, it blew my mind. I'm not going to say who actually said that, because I don't want to throw them under the bus in case that was super private. But it blew my mind to where this is somebody who has thousands of multifamily units. They're like, yeah, the spreadsheets don't matter, man. The only thing that matters is you've got a right team in place that's going to execute this deal, because deals go sideways. Numbers don't pan out. They're just guesses. We're just guessing what's going to happen. It's an educated guess, but it's a guess. So throw it all out the window, because when the deal goes sideways, if you got a strong team in place, they're going to know exactly what to do to fix it. On the other hand, when the deal goes sideways and you were down to the decimal point on your numbers, but you don't have the best team, you're in trouble. So the best thing that I can say that transfers across any industry, surround yourself with people who know exactly what they're doing, pay them whatever they charge, and get it done right the first time, because it's the only thing that matters. The numbers don't matter. Spreadsheets don't matter. Your idea of what you think should be doesn't matter. What matters is, are you surrounding yourself with people who are going to make sure that you execute at a high level right now and can help you course correct when things go sideways, because they always go sideways.
I love it, man. The team is absolutely the most important aspect of the business. And even with multifamily specifically, we always talk about the sponsorship team, right? And understanding who are they. And part of it is because, as you alluded to, the numbers, unless someone is doing their analysis backwards, it can't be perfectly accurate, right? Even if you're either going to exceed it, you're going to be pretty close to spot on, or you're going to be a little bit under it, right? Because every line item, there's 50 line items, whatever it is. So you're not going to be able to nail every single one perfectly at the right growth. So it's a projection. And it's the same thing you see in the business world and stock market and all the company projections. We're trying to make our educated guesses, but ultimately it comes down to the people, and the people to make the right decisions, to gather the right inputs, to understand how to pivot or navigate the different things that come up in a situation. So having the right people is absolutely critical. I know for a lot of folks as well, one of the things that comes up is understanding their either management style or their investing style, and personality starts to come into it, right? How I manage as an investor, as an entrepreneur, may be a little bit different than yourself. You've created this flow state DNA, this personality test. Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So one of the things that I noticed when I'm working with investors is there were these kind of different personalities that I would encounter. And so I had my avatars of people that I would run into that to kind of help me understand, like, how does their brain work? Because there's some people that are super analytical and cautious, And there were others who were just like caution to the wind, like I want to go forward as fast as possible. And there was a whole lot of in between. And there's nothing wrong with any of those guys. But if you are a push ahead kind of person, and the world that you have built around you does not like embrace that, then you run into resistance and you're not as productive. And so over time, I started paying attention to how people were behaving with respect to the environment they create around them. A lot of guys that we would attract were very conservative, very, very cautious, and that will serve you to an extent. But all of the guys that are really crushing it and super successful, they're out there taking calculated risks, and they're creating environment, and they're building teams around you and workspace environments and how they interact with time. So where they can take those risks and not sit here and just analyze themselves to death, which I can tell you this, 99% of 100% of the people who have closed a multifamily deal have submitted offers on deals. 99+% of the people who have not closed a multifamily deal have not submitted an offer on a deal, like not one, because they're stuck in analysis paralysis. All right. So I'm not blaming anybody, but you're there because of a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons that you're there is because you're not creating the environment that's conducive to your personality. And so I created the Flow State DNA as a way to help you understand how you operate as an entrepreneur. How is your relationship with time? Are you more of a, I like tight deadlines, or are you more of a relaxed type of person that needs as much time as possible? What kind of environment do you like things a little messy and chaotic, or do you need everything in its exact place? What about your interaction with people? Do you love running a team, or would you rather just be a lone wolf? How about your execution style? Do you need to follow a specific set of rules and checklists? That's me. Or do you like breaking rules and coming up and figuring out and improvising as you go? And so I put together this test. It's totally free. It takes about 2 minutes, and it will score you in those 4 categories that I just mentioned: time, ambiance, personnel, and execution. TAPE is what I call it. That was the only way that I could remember it, so I call it TAPE. And it's going to give you a score, kind of like Myers-Briggs, and it's going to give you an entrepreneur personality and a custom detailed report that's going to help you understand how to build the world around you to maximize and optimize your productivity and your output as an investor and as an entrepreneur. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, you can go to flowstatedna.com and you can take that test. It takes about 2 minutes. You'll get a custom PDF report that's going to show you exactly who you are and give you some recommendations about different adjustments you can make in your regular daily routine so that you can get more stuff done in less time.
Well, we talked about having someone who can, take that view and give you a little bit more clarity on what's going on. This sounds like a great way for our entrepreneurs, investors to maybe get a little more context on who they are, the way they operate, and maybe adjustments they can make. If you want to check out the Flow State DNA test, just go to flowstatedna.com. And you can check it out there. We'll make sure it's free. You said 2 minutes to fill it out, so we'll definitely make sure we link to that in our show notes. Right now, we're going to transition to our round of insights. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready, man. Give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
I got fired from that consulting job I was talking about, and it stung at the time. I didn't screw the pooch or anything like that. It was just long past that, the cold front had come in a long time ago. And finally, and I wasn't going to end it because I was scared. And so the boss ended it. And he was like, this is the end of the road. And I had an opportunity. I was on a strict diet at the time. And the first thing that I thought when I got out of the phone was, screw that guy. I'm going to get like 16 ice cream cakes and just like a bottle of whiskey. I'm just going to get hammered, And then I thought to myself, why should I destroy all of my progress because of what somebody else did? And I had this choice, like I could react to this the way that I normally would, or I could just stay focused and figure out how to solve the problem. Keep being who I am. Screw that guy. I like that guy, so I'm not going to say screw, but I was glad he ended that, and now we're friends and it's fine. And so I decided to stick with my diet, and I stuck with my exercise, and within 24 hours, I had my first fully independent consulting gig, 24 hours later. And it was a big lesson that stuck with me, because I realized that when adversity strikes, I just put myself right back into that victim position to where I'm helpless and hopeless. And every time I go there, it just sets me back. And so that time I refused to put myself there. And lo and behold, I'm actually pretty resourceful, and that ultimately launched my independent consulting career by getting fired and just going and solving the next problem. The next problem was, I got to figure out a way to make money. And I reached out to my network, and I found that in a day.
I love it, man. I love it. That's great insight and great story for all of our listeners there. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business or for entrepreneurs.
A digital or mobile resource. You're on the spot there, man. I would say, can we come back to that?
We'll come back to that one. No worries. All right. Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
Atomic Habits. Right here on my shelf. You were talking about this earlier, and you were saying people kind of do stuff just to be doing stuff. And James Clear talks about that in his book. There's actually an article. You don't even have to have the book in front of you. You can Google this, motion versus action. You can Google that. There's an article that James wrote about this, and he describes the difference between the two. Motion is preparation, getting ready, doing things, being in motion. But motion doesn't create results. Only action creates results. And action is stuff that is driving towards an outcome. And we have to understand the difference. A lot of times when we say we're busy, I actually have a war against the word busy. When I type the word busy into my phone, I'll show you this. When I type the word busy into my phone, it actually autocorrects to unfocused. And so if I hit the space bar, boom, it just turns into unfocused. Like, I'm not allowed to use the word busy because it's just a BS enabler, right? And busy is another way for us to mask the fact that we're just in motion and we're not taking action. I never met a busy person. I bet I've met unfocused people who don't have their priorities straight. So Atomic Habits is number one. Should be required reading for any entrepreneur.
I love it. Great book. I've got about, I think I have 4 copies still. I keep giving them away, so I just stack them up. Great recommendation there. All right, give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
I have a team, and we meet every day. And one of the most important things that we do is we check in first thing in the morning before we do any work. We talk about, what did we do yesterday? What's the goal for this week? What are we doing today towards that goal? Every single day we do that without fail. And I have met people who don't do that, and I can't imagine how they get anything done. So my daily routine is, even if I didn't have a team, I would sit down for 30 minutes and go through that same step. What did I do yesterday? What's my goal for this week? And what am I going to do about it today? And everything has to be tangible, concrete, measurable. Can't just be something gooey like, oh, I'm going to make more calls today. No, I'm going to make 15 calls today.
Give me your number one insight for getting focused as an entrepreneur.
Have a destination.
Love it. All right.
I don't even want to muddy the waters with more info. Yeah. Have a destination.
All good. I love it. All right. Let's lighten the mood. You are in place to grab a bite to eat. Hey, Josh, hold on one second, man. I lost audio for some reason. I don't know what happened here.
It's all right. Okay. I'm still here.
There you go. I've got it back now.
Yeah. So
okay, I can hear you now.
If you're into barbecue, there's a place called Terry Black's downtown. You get this giant beef rib that's like the size of your arm. You walk away there. Every time I go there, I walk away with a serious meat coma. So go get the beef rib at Terry Black's.
All right, sounds like a great place. We're gonna go back to our other question that we skipped over here. All right. Yeah. So I want you to think about any digital apps or mobile resources, but give me an app or resource you like to use as an entrepreneur.
The thing that I would say, and this might be sound like a cop-out, but I actually use Facebook Messenger a lot. And here's how I use it. I'm in a mastermind group that has about 2,000 paying members in there. And I mentioned I launched this Flow State DNA. The way that I launched that Flow State DNA is I went to my people and Facebook and said, hey, I'm launching this and I need a ton of data. Can you do this? And then I go to Messenger, send them the link and say, hey, will you take this real quick? Tell me what you think about it. The reason I love Messenger is because it's immediate, it's faster than email, and most people don't know this. But the other thing that I do when I go to an in-person event, I'm going to take notes on my iPhone here. I'm going to take notes on my notes app of whatever conversation I had. Hey, John, had a great podcast with you about multifamily insights. I would write that down. John, podcast, multifamily insights. And then afterwards, this is what's cool about Messenger is if I can find you on Facebook and you go to the camera thing, if you hold down the camera button, it shoots up to a 20-second video. And what I do is I write down sometimes 50, 80 people. I think 86 people was my record that I personally interacted with. And I wrote down their names and something about them at an event. And then I sat here and I made 86 20-second videos. It took me an hour and 20 minutes, but every single person got a personalized video message from me about something we talked about. It took me less than 2 hours, and I touched that many people at a really, really high personal level. And something that an email, if I sent that email, hey, great meeting you at so-and-so, you want to talk sometime? That wouldn't have hit nearly as well as me popping this 20-second video about something they talked about. So Facebook Messenger, specifically the video messaging thing, was a game changer for me. And I have people to this day that I messaged a year ago and they're like, oh, dude, man, it was so cool that you sent me that video. Like, they're still talking about it, And it was just like, hey, man, it was great meeting you at the event. That's funny. That's funny about your kid that plays baseball. I used to play baseball as a kid. Like, that's all I would say. And they're like, oh my God, he knows my kids. Like, you told me. I'm just giving it back to you.
I love it. And that's a great way to use kind of technology and the things that maybe we use every day, but use it in a more purposeful way as opposed to just kind of, using the device or whatever. So I really love that insight. Josh, you gave us a lot of great stuff today. You talked about really, how important it is for us to figure out where we're going when we get on that road trip, right? Not getting in the car if we don't know where we're going. So getting that clarity is key. Getting perspective as well, having a business consultant, having a trusted advisor of some sort, being able to look at what you're doing and give you some feedback and helping you grow is critical if you want to see success, especially as entrepreneurs, because you may think your business is so unique and people don't get it, they don't understand it. So it's hard to get that perspective. So it is really important to reach out and find people who can help guide you along that way. And you also talked to us about, how to grow and understanding who we are as investors. For folks who want to go check out that Flow State DNA, again, that's flowstatedna.com. 2-minute test, help you understand more about who you are. And I wrote down the TAPE acronym as well. So we had how you manage your time, ambiance, your personnel, and your was the execution. My handwriting's right. A little sloppy. That's right. I got to the E and I think I started scribbling a little bit there. It's an execution, right? So again, check out that. That's again is going to be your flowstatedna.com. Josh, thank you again for being a great guest and coming on Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you and hope you have a great day.